Humans haven't left Earth's orbit in over 50 years. That changes on April 1st, 2026, and the price tag is $4 billion, just for one launch. So here's the deal. Artemis II is NASA's first crewed mission since Apollo 17 touched down on the moon in December 1972. 4 astronauts, 10 days, a trajectory that swings around the far side of the moon and brings them back. Nobody has traveled that far from Earth in more than half a century. And we need to talk about why this mission exists, what it actually does, and why the math behind it is making a lot of people uncomfortable. The crew is 4 people: NASA astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Koch, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen. Hansen's inclusion isn't just a feel-good moment. Canada signed the Artemis Accords back in October 2020, making it one of the original 8 nations to commit to this framework for deep space cooperation. So Hansen's seat on this mission is a direct result of that political and scientific partnership. The Artemis Accords now cover dozens of countries. They set the rules for how nations behave beyond Earth orbit. And Artemis II is the first crude proof that those agreements mean something real. Now here's a detail most people gloss over. This mission is not a landing. The crew won't touch the moon's surface. What they're doing is a flyby, a free return trajectory around the far side of the moon.
The goal is to test everything: the Orion spacecraft, the life support, the navigation, the communication systems when you're farther from Earth than any human has ever been. Think of it as the dress rehearsal that has to go perfectly before Artemis III actually lands. And that context matters a lot when you start looking at the cost. According to NASA's own Office of Inspector General, the Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft cost approximately $4 billion per flight. A 2021 audit put it at $4.1 billion. A follow-up 2024 audit confirmed that number hasn't gotten better. The full Artemis moon exploration program is estimated at $90 billion total. That's not a typo, $90 billion. For context, that's more than the GDP of many mid-sized countries. And every time SLS launches, it's expendable. The rocket doesn't come back. You build a new one. That's the core of the criticism. SpaceX's Starship is designed to be fully reusable. Falcon 9 lands its boosters routinely. So when NASA is spending $4 billion on a single-use rocket, critics aren't being unfair when they ask whether this model is sustainable. And it gets more complicated. Artemis II actually faced launch delays caused by liquid hydrogen fuel leaks, the exact same problem that delayed Artemis I back in 2022. 4 years later, same issue. That's not a minor footnote, that's a pattern. And here's the part that rarely makes headlines.
Plans that were circulating inside NASA suggested that after Artemis III lands on the moon, the SLS and Orion programs could end. The hardware for Artemis II and III has been completed or is close to completion, but beyond that, the future is unclear. So we may be looking at a moon program that consists of exactly 3 crewed missions before pivoting to something else entirely. Maya Cross, a professor of political science and international affairs at Northeastern University, said it directly, quote, "Politically speaking, it's very important that this mission succeeds, especially given its symbolic weight. That word, symbolic, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because China has its own lunar program, it's moving fast, and the United States going back to the moon, even on a flyby, sends a signal. It tells allies that the Artemis Accords framework is real. It tells competitors that the US still has capability. But signals cost money, and $4 billion per signal is a number Congress keeps circling back to. Now here's what most coverage misses about Artemis II. The data this mission generates is irreplaceable. You cannot simulate a human crew at 270,000 miles from Earth in a lab. The radiation exposure data, the spacecraft performance data, the communication lag data, all of it feeds directly into Artemis III and eventually into planning for Mars missions. NASA has stated that Mars is the long-term target. The moon is the proving ground.
Artemis II is the first human data point in that chain, and Jeremy Hansen being on that crew matters beyond politics. He becomes the first Canadian to travel to deep space, full stop. That's a milestone for the Canadian Space Agency and for the international coalition that Artemis is trying to build. When 50+ countries have signed the Artemis Accords, having a non-American crew member on the first crewed deep space mission in 54 years is a deliberate, meaningful choice. So here's where we land. Artemis II launched April 1st, 2026. 4 humans flew farther from Earth than anyone since 1972. The mission cost $4 billion. The rocket won't fly again. The program might end after one more mission. And yet, this is the first real data NASA has on crewed deep space flight in over half a century. You can criticize the cost model. You can question whether SLS was the right vehicle. Both of those critiques are valid and well documented. But you can't dismiss what Artemis II actually is. It's the first step back into deep space. And every Mars mission plan, every lunar gateway concept, every future crewed mission beyond Earth orbit depends on what this crew learns during those 10 days. The question isn't whether Artemis II matters. It does. The question is whether the $90 billion program built around it is the right architecture for getting humanity permanently off this planet.
Subscribe if you want AI and tech news that actually matters, including every update as the Artemis program evolves.